Welcome to This Explainer. We often think of history as, well, something fixed and kind of dry, just a bunch of dates in a textbook. But the reality? It's actually incredibly thrilling. Historians act a whole lot like detectives. They're actively piecing together our shared human story, digging through clues and trying to figure out exactly what happened, why it happened, and most importantly, what it means for us today. So we're going to explore this whole investigative process step by step, drawing straight from the really solid framework of the 2026 Virtual History Camp. So let's kick this off with a bit of a thought experiment, straight from that history camp, just to get your historical imagination firing. If you could hop in a time machine and travel back to any period in Nigerian history, where would you go? And exactly why would you pick that specific moment? I mean, would you want to visit the ancient Nok culture? Or maybe you'd want to see the hustle and bustle of the trans-Saharan trade routes? Asking these kinds of imaginative what-if questions is exactly how a historian starts their work. It completely shifts our mindset from just passively receiving facts to actively hunting down a story.
Because here's the thing. History is far more than just a list of dates and names you have to memorize. It's the rigorous study and interpretation of the human past, and it is based strictly on evidence, not just a mere story or some local legend. Reconstructing history requires actively asking questions, examining that evidence, comparing completely different sources, and interpreting what the whole shebang actually means. It is a meticulous, deliberate process of reconstruction.
All right, Section 1, The History Detective, Gathering Clues. Let's look at exactly how these experts build their cases.
Tool number 1 in the kit, oral sources. Now, in a lot of cultures, especially across early Nigerian societies, oral tradition was the primary way history was kept alive. Information passed down across generations through spoken words, like folk tales and praise poetry, gives historians invaluable insight into the values and events of societies long before widespread written records even existed. And actually, it blows my mind, but the accuracy involved here is staggering. For instance, traditional praise poets, or griots, successfully memorized hundreds of years of incredibly complex family genealogies without writing down a single note.
Then, of course, we have written sources. These provide historians with tangible, physical records and first-hand accounts of specific moments in time. We're talking about things like government treaties, newspapers, or official administrative records, but think about the sheer emotional weight of a primary source like a personal diary. A diary written during a major historical event isn't just paper. It is literally a time machine right into the actual headspace and feelings of someone who lived through the history we're trying so hard to understand.
Now, what happens when there are no written words or spoken stories to rely on? Well, historians let the earth speak. We're talking about archaeological sources. Physical remains, like those famous terracotta Nok culture sculptures, allow historians to piece together exactly how ancient societies lived and functioned. Ancient pottery, tools, burial sites, and beads, they tell us undeniable truths about a society's technological advancements, their trade networks, and their daily habits, long before anyone started writing things down.
And rounding out the toolkit, we have visual and material sources. Ranging from old photographs and detailed maps to just everyday physical objects, these give historians the visual and tactile evidence they need to accurately picture the past. A painting can show us exactly how people dressed, right? And a map reveals how they understood their geography. Even a simple, centuries-old cooking pot or a dropped coin can be the absolute smoking gun that proves how everyday people lived their lives. Together, these different sources form the absolute foundation of historical reconstruction.
So, a historian finds one of these objects or sources. They don't just take it at face value. No way. They systematically interrogate the evidence. First, what do you literally see? Second, who might have used it? Third, when might it have been used? And fourth, and this is absolutely crucial, what evidence actually supports this conclusion? By grilling the evidence this way, they unlock the true story hiding behind the artifact. Moving right along to Section 2, Reconstructing Family Roots, your first case.
You can actually use these exact same detective skills on your own family tree. It's a fantastic exercise in historical reconstruction. You start with step 1, yourself. Then you move back to your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents. You do this by utilizing those oral sources we just talked about, sitting down and interviewing older relatives about family migrations, traditional occupations, and childhood memories. You piece together this tree step by step, and suddenly you uncover how major historical events actually affected your own lineage and shaped who you are today.
Which brings us to Section 3, Analyzing Turning Points, the macro view.
Once we've got a handle on our personal roots, we can zoom out to the macro level and look at what historians call turning points.
This timeline of Nigerian history perfectly illustrates how experts plot out massive, pivotal moments. Just look at these major markers: the amalgamation of 1914, independence in 1960, and the return to democratic rule in 1999. Historians use these dates to really structure their investigation. They ask, okay, what was this society like before this event? What exactly happened during it? And most crucially, how did the entire trajectory of the nation change afterward? Timelines aren't just for memorizing. They are vital tools for understanding profound cause and effect.
And zooming in on those turning points, historians also rigorously investigate the choices made by leaders. Think of figures ranging from Nnamdi Azikiwe to Queen Amina of Zazzau. By investigating Queen Amina, for instance, historians don't just see a ruler on a page. They look at the physical evidence of her legendary walled cities to visually ground the real-world impact of her choices. Historians analyze the before and after of a leader's tenure, looking at the unique challenges those figures faced and the long-lasting consequences of their decisions. Ultimately, history teaches us that leadership is entirely about choices, and the ripple effects of those choices through time.
Okay, Section 4, Shaping the Future, the Ultimate Goal.
So why go through all this trouble? Why gather all these oral and written sources, map out turning points, and analyze ancient leadership? Not just for the sake of knowing the past, but entirely for the sake of the future. It's perfectly summed up by the 2026 Virtual History Camp motto: know the past, understand the present, shape the future. We absolutely cannot fully understand where we're going as a society if we don't understand where we came from. Reconstructing history gives us vital context for our current world, and that knowledge grants us the wisdom to make much better, more informed decisions today. I want to leave you with one final powerful question to chew on today, drawn straight from the culmination of the History Camp experience. Because you know your history, how will you help build the future? Whether it's preserving your unique culture, learning from past mistakes so we don't repeat them, or promoting unity, I challenge you to take the historical evidence you've investigated and use it actively to shape a better tomorrow. Because for sure, the future really does begin with history.